Why is the Chinese way of saying goodbye 再见? You might know that the phrase literally means again and meet. So put together, 再见 means see you again. Well then, how about using 又 and 还, which also, like 在, have the meaning again. Instead of 再见, can we say 又见 or 还见? How are the three adverbs 在, 又 and 还 different? Let's find out. These three adverbs each have various meanings. Today we'll only be looking at the most confusing common meaning, usually translated as again and also. They can be quite mind-boggling, but I'll try my best to explain as simply as I can. Let's warm up by first looking at the sentences below. 我明天再给他打电话。我今天又给他打电话了。我明天还给他打电话。In these sentences, 在, 又 and 还 can all be translated as again. So what difference is there, if any? What are the inherent qualities of each? Before we dive into that, we need to be first aware that there usually will be two parts in 在, 又 and 还 sentences. But this is not always so apparent because there may only be one clause instead of two. For example, the sentence, I'll call him again tomorrow. This is in fact the second part. The first part would be, I called him today, which is invisible but inherently existing. Even 再见, which seems to exist solely on its own, actually carries the hidden connotation that we met today. So, we met today would be the first part, and 再见 would be the second part. Now, on to the qualities that we were going to look at. We'll focus on three main points. Independent versus complementary. Past, present, or future. Simultaneous versus non-simultaneous. Independent versus complementary. Phrases that use 在 and 又 express entities that are independent in nature, while those that use 还 express entities that are complementary. What this means is that in 在 and 又 sentences, the first and second parts are separate and independent of each other, or even contrary. They're individualistic dudes that express repetition. On the other hand, 还, being complementary, is used to express continuation, addition, or extension. They're a collective bunch. The first and second parts together form a bigger unit. Because 还 has these layers of meaning, it is often translated as still, also, yet, in addition, on top of that, and so on. Past, present, or future. 在 can only be used for future actions. 又 can be used for past and present actions. 还 can be used for past, present, and future actions. But here we need to be clear about one thing. In Mandarin, there are no tenses, so there's no such thing like past or present tense in Mandarin grammar, nor do we even think about anything like that when using the language. Here, past, present, and future refer to simply the concept of whether an event has already happened, is happening, or will happen. Don't be too fixated on past, present, or future tense because you're probably going to end up giving yourself a hard time, and that's simply not the way we think. You need to let go of the paradigm of English grammar and be a bit more flexible and open when looking at Mandarin because here things function in quite a different fashion. Simultaneous versus non-simultaneous. In 又 and 还 sentences, the first and second parts can coexist or occur simultaneously. But in 在 sentences, the second part happens only after the first part has ceased. Now, with the understanding of the above principles, let's go back and think about the examples I gave earlier. In A and C, since both are actions that have yet to be actualized, they mean the same thing, except for a very slight difference. In the 在 sentence, it means that today I made a call, and that action is over and done with, but tomorrow I'm going to repeat the same action again. The call today and the call tomorrow are separate and independent of each other. Whereas in the 还 sentence, the second call is like a continuation of the first call rather than an independent repetition. So if we were to try to include the subtleties, maybe we could say that the 在 sentence sounds like I will do it once again. The 还 sentence sounds like I'm still going to do the same thing. In addition, the 在 sentence can have yet another possible meaning. I'll put off calling him until tomorrow. This is another important use of 在, usually translated as then, only then, after. This is where it is useful to be aware of the existence of parts 1 and 2 that I talked about earlier. In this instance, part 1 would be, I'll put off calling him today. So if we link the two parts together, we have, I'll put off calling him today and then call him tomorrow. So to reiterate, even though they both talk about repetition, 还 expresses a continuation, whereas 在 expresses duplication of the action all over again. Additionally, 在 can also mean postponement of the action to a later time. And B, 又 is used because the action has already taken place. Have a look at another set. 我们明年再参加比赛。我们今年又参加比赛了。我们明年还参加比赛。This set is basically the same as the previous case. In A, we took part in the competition this year. The competition this year has ended, and we'll repeat the same action all over again next year. They are the same actions but separate and distinct. Alternatively, it could also mean that instead of taking part this year, we're going to take part next year. In contrast, in C, the emphasis is more on continuing the same action. We did it this year, and we're still going to do the same thing next year. You can think of it like splitting an action into two parts, part 1 and part 2. In B, because it has happened, we use 又. So far, it hasn't been very complicated, I hope. Now, let's move on to the next stage. 他学习汉语，学习英语. Which adverb would fit into this sentence? First, we have to consider what this sentence could possibly mean. Let's take it to mean, she studies Mandarin and studies English too. In that case, both 又 and 还 are absolutely fine. 他学习汉语，又学习英语。他学习汉语，还学习英语。在, however, would sound slightly off. 他学习汉语，再学习英语。Let's recap the qualities of 又 and 还. They're similar in that they can both be used for simultaneous and coexisting situations. However, 又 is used for independent entities. 还 is complementary in nature. So if we say 他学习汉语，又学习英语, the two languages are seen as different and contrasting. On the other hand, 他学习汉语，还学习英语, then the two languages are seen as related and similar. In other words, in 又, the focus is on the difference, whereas in 还, it is on the similarity. 在, however, doesn't seem to fit very well here. As mentioned earlier, 在 is not used for coexisting situations or simultaneous occurrences. The first part of the sentence has to cease before the second part can occur. Therefore, if we say 他学习汉语，再学习英语, then it would mean she first studies Mandarin, then English. If that is the case, the sentence would sound better, nicer, if modified into 他先学习汉语，再学习英语. Let's look at another similar set. 我吃了苹果，再吃香蕉。我吃了苹果，又吃了香蕉。我吃了苹果，还吃了香蕉。Both B and C mean that I ate apples and bananas. The slight difference is that in the you sentence, the focus is more on the difference, whereas in the还 sentence, it is on the similarity. In A, it means that I'll eat an apple, followed by a banana. What about the following? 他们孩子很可爱，再很聪明。他们孩子很可爱，又很聪明。他们孩子很可爱，还很聪明。B and C are both okay, but A is not. By now, can you tell why? That's right, because 在 cannot be used for coexisting situations. What we've covered so far are the basic inherent differences, but you probably know that things can't be so simple. These adverbs each have their quirks and special traits, and we'll look at one quirky trait of each of them. Imperative 在今天卖完了，你明天再来吧。请你再说一遍。In imperative sentences, only 在 can be used. You may think that since 还 can be used for future events, it should be okay here, but 还 cannot be used in requests or commands. 又 cannot be used for future events, so all the more, it is impossible here. predictive 又，明天又星期一了，明天又要上班了。I just said again earlier that 又 cannot be used for future events, but well, the shocking truth is that isn't really true. In instances where a future event is definitely going to occur, typically a recurring event, believe it or not, we use 又 instead of 在 or 还。Annoyed 还，你还来？ In this scenario, the person saying this is probably not simply stating a fact that you're here again, but rather expressing slight irritation. Gosh, I can't believe you're here again. Here's another one. 这首歌都唱了3遍了，还唱啊？ There's yet another important point that I think we should cover. What happens when modal verbs are involved? Modal verbs like 要、想、能、会、可以 are auxiliary verbs that express possibility, ability, willingness, and so on. So how do we use 在、又 and 还 with modal verbs? 我能再吃，我不能再吃，我又能吃了，我又不能吃了，我还能吃，我还不能吃。As we can see from the examples, 在 is usually placed after modal verbs, while 又 and 还 are usually placed before modal verbs. In other words, 在 is attributed to only the verb, whereas 又 and 还 are attributed to the whole set of modal verb plus verb. This might be a bit confusing, so do come back and have a look at this chart again. The above is just a general guide. Depending on how the modal verbs and verbs change, or if the verbs take objects, the rules get a bit blurry. 上星期每天都吃饺子，这星期不能再吃饺子吧？上星期每天都吃饺子，这星期不能又吃饺子吧？上星期每天都吃饺子，这星期不能还吃饺子吧？ In this case, 在、又 and 还 can all be used. It is okay to place 又 and 还 after the modal verb. Why is that so? The reason is because we're looking at again plus eat dumplings as one whole set. So we're actually highlighting this whole set as one total complete unit. Furthermore, when adding more emphasis, sometimes two modal verbs can be used together. 我还能再吃. Let me throw in just one more important point that will be very useful to know. Like mentioned earlier, there are no tenses in Mandarin. We simply don't get tense about tenses because often a sentence can be interpreted in multiple ways, so things are often not as clear-cut as English. There is, however, something called reference time that we abide by, but only on a subconscious level as we don't realize any of these underlying rules when we speak. Let's look at this. 上星期我去看他，他还很健康。没想到昨天我再去找他，他已经病得那么严重了。In this sentence, even though the visit yesterday is a past action, we still use 在. Before my second visit yesterday, there was the first visit last week, which is the reference time in this case. So since the reference time is last week, the visit yesterday becomes a future event. And so in such instances, we use 在. Let's look at another interesting one. 如果下次考试再不及格，我就要见你父母了。如果下次考试又不及格，我就要见你父母了。如果下次考试还不及格，我就要见你父母了。In this example, 在、又、还 can all be used. Since this is a future event, 在 and 还 fit in naturally. But what about 又? This is not a past event, nor is it a future event that is definitely going to happen. So how can 又 be also a good fit? This is where the reference time comes into play. In the 又 sentence, the speaker would be looking at it from a future reference point, which is the time when they decide that they have to meet the parents. And when that happens, the student would already have failed the exam. And so, 又 is also possible. Fascinating, isn't it? I know it can be really confusing, but I hope you're still hanging in there. So now let's go back to the very first question I posed at the beginning. Instead of 再见, can we say 又见 or 还见? Well, they could appear as part of a longer sentence. For example, 我们又见面了。你以后还见他吗？ However, they cannot be used on their own as a goodbye greeting. And what do you think is the logic behind? Right, because when we say goodbye, the situation is such that the action of meeting has happened, is still happening, but is going to end right now. And there is the expectation that this meeting will be repeated sometime in the future. And therefore, only 再见 is possible as a goodbye greeting. 在, 又, and 还 are all high-frequency adverbs, so naturally they can be quite complex. The above are some of the most essential traits to know about them. I hope that I've presented them well and that now you're clearer about them. Do visit my website for the exercise on this. And so, till we meet again. 再见!